It's been that long since I've done a video that I forgot to catch for the start of this one. So what I'm doing here is these two poles, so that one over there and this one here, I'm just putting like a trellis, sort of like a wind block in. I'll try and find some pictures of a previous edition where I had a couple of rails across and some ply on it. I actually had some shadow clad off the house. But look, the wind just used to blow that incredible. And parts of, like as it stays out in the weather, because it was just pine, it wasn't treated pine either. It just started snapping apart. So I got to the point where it just looked really, really messy. So decided to go with decking boards. So pine decking boards this time, and then I'll let the boss stain it to the color that she likes. So that way it will be the way that she wants it in her garden here, because she does have, you know, a herb garden growing here. She's got 4 gardens that I made some while ago. I think I've actually done a video on those as well. But the first job has been, before I even put the boards on, is to get the poles straight. So over the years they had sort of moved around a bit. So I've already done that one. I ended up having to take that out completely because I couldn't push it over far enough. And that's why you'll see the crowbar, the shovel, a little hoe. I was actually using a little hoe to try and get some of the dirt out, but in the end it was just quicker for me to get in there and dig it out with my hand. I've got the long spirit level. I got the old 12-pound sledgehammer to try and move that sucker. I think I've moved it a little bit, but I also got my petrol post hole digger out as well. Now look, that's a tool that I don't use a lot, but gee, when I do, it comes in handy. Now, where did I get that from? I think I got that from Bigger Boys Toys, I think, out of Sydney. And I was wondering how that would go, but no, I've had that now for, oh look, several years. And look, it really does start. Like, I haven't used that in probably over, like, easily 12, 18 months, maybe 2 years. Obviously, I didn't leave petrol in the tank because that would get stale petrol, but tank was empty. I put petrol in it, and it started like third pull. Really, really good. And so much cheaper than some of the other models that you see around the place. But look, that has been an exceptional buy. And when I use it, it just works like a charm. So this is the go here. So I've had to dig around because I couldn't actually move this one, and I haven't been able to pull it out of the ground like I did the other one either. So I've dug another hole in front of it to free up some space. And that is going to be enough for me to just pull it forward and then put some dirt around it and pack it in. If we go over to this one over here, you'll notice that I haven't got dirt all the way up to the top. Not that it will make too much difference at that point in time, but I will get some quick set cement tomorrow morning and put into that hole there. So that will be the go. And I'll do the same for this hole here, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a gap at the top with this one as well. But anyway, this is the tools I'm going to be using today. So I've only brought down 4 boards. I had them cut at the hardware to make sure I got all the same length exactly, but also the length of timber that I was buying was too big to carry home on the car. So I come down the length so I could carry them back. So I just got started with 4. They're going to go across between the 2 vertical poles there. And the tools I'll be using today are going to be my drill, because I want to pre-drill the boards, and I've got my driver to actually drive the screws in. You see these 2 little bits of white wood, they're going to be spacers. Now I was thinking about how to do that overnight, and my original thought would be to actually use one of the boards, just sit it on its side and, you know, create the space. But then I thought, well, how am I going to do that on my own, because they would keep falling off the ledge of the bottom board, essentially, because they can't go any further in than what the poles are going to be. So, you know, they're going to be probably 12 mil at most. It's going to hold them up. So I found a couple of little pieces of wood up in the shed, which are nearly the same width or thickness of the decking boards, so they will do just fine. I've also got some clamps to hold them on and help me with it. Actually, what you don't see here is the spirit level, and I will have to go get that. So thanks for reminding me on that. But for supervision wise, I heard some noise. And there they are. Look at that. Where are you? Don't know if you can see that little fella. See if we can get his face. He's hiding behind the bushes there. But not very high up in the tree, just quietly. So he's probably, it's only about 10-12 feet up, because the tree's only about that high. So he's at the top of that little tree. So that one's up clamped on. That one's not so much clamped on, it's just sitting on the ground. I'm okay with it sitting on the ground, to be honest. It's sort of a sacrificial one, particularly because it's close to the tree. One of the reasons for that is I can brush cut up behind it and not worry about the brush cutter killing the tree, which may or may not have happened before. So another thing to always remember is to use safety gear. So if you're doing this type of work, make sure you've got goggles on, your safety glasses. You don't need goggles, but safety glasses. I always like to wear gloves, because around here you never know what you're picking up. If it's got ants or something other weird things on it. And that's how it rolls. And so that's going to be rinse and repeat all the way along. So you can see I've got that spacer in there. You'll also notice that that bottom one is really bowed. Now I was aware of that, which is why that's on the bottom, because I figured that over time, especially with that end up there being on the ground, it'll rot away. All the others are nice and straight, but for whatever reason that particular board is really bowed, and I didn't want that in the middle or at the top, so I put it at the bottom, where it will be surrounded by some gardens eventually, I'm assuming. So that's how I'm doing it. So I've just put those little spaces in. I've clamped this end. I have to say, because that board is nice and straight, it's just sitting there pretty nicely. Also, because that bottom board is bowed, the ends don't line up perfectly. So I've decided to go with lining the ends up at the most walked past end, and that way I look a little bit neater over this side. And then what I'll do, I'll make sure that's nice and straight as we go up the pole from this end. So rinse and repeat. This thing really has some grunt. It's great. When the operator uses it properly. Got 3 up. there we go. Not quite done. 4 more to go. So that's 12 of them in. And I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. It just looks nice and neat and straight. And now I'm hoping that with the wind, that's not going to be going anywhere. I've got some nice really long screws into that timber on each board, multiple on each board, so it's not going to be flying around. And because it's treated, I'm hoping it won't rot away like the others did, but also the wife will want to stain that to some sort of colour that she likes, and then they'll actually look quite nice with a stain on it, and hopefully it'll be kept up to date, like the stain that is, because otherwise stain can go off and then obviously the timber starts to rot. So once that's done and maintained, that should look quite nice. Happy with progress so far. I've had to bring out the big guns and bring out the Sawzall, the reciprocating saw, whatever you want to call it, because as we come up to our poles, you will notice that they are slightly different heights, right? So that one is high enough for 15, but not quite high enough for 16. And that one will definitely do 16. But what I'm going to do is just take a little bit off of that one, a fair bit off of this one, and I'll leave it at 15 high. And so that'll be a nice neat job, as opposed to having a little bit hanging over the top on either pole. You'll notice I've done them both on a slight angle. That's intentional. That is intentional because when it rains, I don't want rain to sit and pool on the top of it. So slight angle, bit of luck, when it rains the water will roll off. So there we go, it's all done. Another job is nicely done. Look, I'm actually really happy with how that's turned out. Look, it took me a couple of hours of just putting the boards up. Now I know I could do that a lot quicker if I really had to, but look, I didn't have to. So I'm not trying to break myself, injure myself. I'm still trying to work through my knee, building up strength around that. So just taking things as they come. But the thing I'm really happy about, let's see if we can get a good close-up of this. Look at that. After going up 15 boards, that's still nice and level. So why did I show that? Because this is about prep. So it didn't take me very long to put the rest of the boards up, but that first board I took extra time on because I wanted to get that one level. Also behind that, even though it only took me a couple of hours to put the wood up, getting these poles straight was another probably hour and a half last night of me just making sure they were vertical and plumb and all that sort of stuff as well. So look, it's the same for pretty much every job. The more time you spend on the preparation, the better the outcome will be on the job. So it's the same for painting, it's the same for, you know, this type of work. Just doing the basics and getting them right first, like getting your plumb and square and levels, it pays off. Now I didn't actually check the levels on any of those boards all the way up. I just made sure the bottom one was right, and then I used the same spaces all the way through. Now that could have turned out horribly wrong, because any error on that first board then gets multiplied as you're stacking them up. So I have to say I'm pretty ecstatic. It's probably more fluke than good management, to be honest, but happy with it. I'll claim it because it is actually level, and like I'm actually happy with the way it's turned out. Pretty stoked. So ticking that one off the list.